This Greater Vancouver real estate market update is brought to you courtesy of RE/MAX Pinpoint Listings team. For West Vancouver, we saw that there were 21 detached properties sold, 6 condos sold, 2 townhomes sold. Condos and single-family houses were in the buyer's market. For January 2020, West Vancouver detached properties, the most popular price range was in the $2 million to $3 million range. For West Vancouver condos, they were sold in various price ranges from $400,000 to $4 million range. For West Vancouver townhomes, they were selling at various price ranges $900,000 to $4 million range. January 2020 for North Vancouver, we saw a decrease of 31.4% in sales of detached properties, an increase of 53.7% in sales of condos, and a decrease of 8.3% in sales of townhomes. Condos were in the seller's market in North Vancouver in the month of January 2020. Most North Vancouver detached properties were sold in the $900,000 to $4 million range. For North Vancouver condos, the most popular price ranges for condos sold were in the $400,000 to $900,000 range. For North Vancouver townhomes, the most popular price ranges for townhomes sold were in the $400,000 to $1.5 million range. In January 2020, in Vancouver's Westside, we saw a 2.9% increase in sales of detached properties, 58.6% sales in condos, and 71.4% sales increase in townhomes. Condominiums were in the seller's market. In January 2020, for Vancouver Westside detached properties sold, the most popular price range was in the $2 million to $3 million range. For Vancouver Westside condos, the most popular price ranges for sold condos were in the $400,000 to $1.5 million range, and for Vancouver Westside townhomes, $900,000 to $2 million range. January 2020 in East Vancouver, we saw a 20% increase in sales of detached properties, 62.5% increase in sales of condos, and a doubling of sales of townhomes. Townhomes and condos were in the seller's market in East Van. The most popular price ranges for East Vancouver sold detached properties were in the $900,000 to $2 million range. For East Van condos, the most popular price ranges sold were $400,000 to $900,000, and for townhomes, $900,000 to $1.5 million range. January 2020 for Burnaby South, we saw an increase of 75% in the sales of detached properties in January 2020 compared to the previous year, an increase of 55% in sales of condos. Townhome sales stayed the same. In January 2020 for Burnaby South, sold detached properties, the most popular price range was $900,000 to $1.5 million range. And for Burnaby South condos, the most popular price range was in the $400,000 to $900,000. And for townhomes, also the same price range, $400,000 to $900,000. January 2020 in Richmond, we saw a 67.7% increase in sales of detached properties compared to the previous year. We saw a 53% increase in the sales of condos and 134.6% increase in the sales of townhomes. Single-family houses were in the buyer's market. For Richmond detached properties, the most popular sold price ranges were in the $900,000 to $3 million range. For Richmond condos, the most popular price ranges were in the $400,000 to $900,000, and townhomes in the $400,000 to $1.5 million range. January 2020 for New West, we saw a decrease of 30% in the sales of detached properties, a decrease of 30.9% in sales of condos, a decrease of 55.6% in sales of townhomes. Detached properties were in the buyer's market. The most popular price ranges for New West detached properties were in the $400,000 to $1.5 million range. New West condos, the most popular price ranges sold were in the $400,000 to $900,000 range, and the same price range for New West townhomes, $400,000 to $900,000 range. For January 2020 in Port Moody, we saw a 12.5% increase in the sales of detached properties compared to the previous year, an 11.1% decrease of sales in condos, and a 120% increase in the sales of townhomes. Townhomes and condos in Port Moody were in the seller's market. In January 2020, for Port Moody detached properties, the most popular sold price range was in the $900,000 to $1.5 million range. For Port Moody condos, $400,000 to $900,000, and townhomes, $400,000 to $900,000 range as well. For January 2020 in Coquitlam, we saw an increase of 51.9% in sales of detached properties, an increase of 69% of sales in condos, and 115.4% increase of sales in townhomes. Both townhomes and condos were in the seller's market. For Coquitlam detached properties, the most popular price range was in the $900,000 to $1.5 million range. For Coquitlam condos, the most popular price range was in the $400,000 to $900,000 range. For Coquitlam townhomes, $400,000 to $900,000 price range. In January 2020 for Port Coquitlam, we saw a 69.2% increase in sales of detached properties, 43.8% increase in condo sales, and 114.3% increase in sales of townhomes. All property types were in the seller's market in Port Coquitlam. For Port Coquitlam detached properties, the most popular price range for sold detached properties were in the $400,000 to $900,000 range. For Port Coquitlam condos, the most popular price range was $400,000 to $900,000, and the same for Port Coquitlam townhomes. Looking for a property near transit? Please visit our new website at walktotransit.ca.